Welcome to this week's video on the learning process. So for this week, we're going to talk about and explain a real-world example of how barriers or limitations to learning affected me in the educational process and how I overcame those barriers. So I'm using an example during my private pilot training out of KVGT in North Las Vegas, a busy Class Delta airspace. Over there at KVGT, I soloed at about 15 hours. However, post initial solo, it took me another 40 hours to get to the cross-country solo portion of the training. During that time, my performance was declining periodically, and according to my CFI and myself, situational awareness as well as ground knowledge was the real issue here, and they were declining every day. So let's talk about some barriers that the FAA outlines for us: anxiety, impatience, physical discomfort, lack of interest, apathy due to inadequate instruction, and feelings of unfair treatment. So we're going to go over my experience and see which ones we were checking here. So based on my experience, working a full-time job 50 hours a week was a huge problem here. My job was in a high-stress work environment. I had homework to do, I had schoolwork, and also I had to show up to the airport either at 5 in the morning or after work to get my flights done. During that time, I was compromising on everything. Also, life changes in my personal life were causing a bit of anxiety, which transferred to my flight training. Also, my flight instructor was experiencing some life changes, having twin babies, which caused him to lack in some aspects of his job. And my CFI's anxiety led to us having 2 in-flight emergencies, one of them being fuel starvation to the engine, not because we ran out of fuel, he just did not switch the fuel tanks, and me as a brand new pilot didn't know any better. We just switched to the Pipers. I didn't know any better. I started training in the Cessna 172 and then moved to the Piper, so that's something that he took blame for. And also we almost had a mid-air collision in Las Vegas, and those things triggered a bit of anxiety in me. So looking at these, going back to the FAA outline, the anxiety section, we check that. Physical discomfort due to chronic fatigue for working a full-time job and being a full-time student. And also inadequate flight instruction, which led to a lack of interest. So as we see, if we don't maintain and manage these problems, they will trickle down and cause more issues down the line. So in order to mitigate future barriers, I left my full-time job, transitioned to a part-time position, took some time off to mitigate chronic fatigue, did a little mini vacation. I changed my flight school and my flight instructor, which was a huge help. And after I got my private pilot license, I moved to Virginia in order to reduce the cost of living, so I don't have to go through this again. And also it helped me to remember what Isaiah 40:29 says. He gives strength to the weary and increases the power of the weak. Those who hope in the Lord will renew their strength. Here are my sources, and thank you very much for watching.